theft, and provide a legal environment for contract enforcement. So they're focused on national defense, security, and the court system. So those are the things that a laissez-faire economy would be focused on, and nothing else. So people interact in markets to buy and sell. The command system is also known as socialism or communism. It's government ownership of resources. Decisions are made by a central planning board. North Korea, Cuba, and Myanmar are run with the system. The market system is a mix of decentralized decision-making with some government control. Systems found in much of the world. Private markets are the dominant force, private ownership of resources, and self-interested behavior. So that's the market system where the economic control is by most of the market, while the government comes in for certain things. So there are taxes, there are government subsidies, but not as much as the command economy. The command economy is where there's no market, the government controls all the economy. Characteristics of the market system include private property, freedom of enterprise, freedom of choice, self-interest, competition, and market forces. So Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, they're free markets. Canada, United States, Botswana are mostly free markets. Moderately free are Israel, Spain, and Italy. Mostly unfree is Cambodia, Greece, and Argentina. Repressed are Mozambique, Algeria, and North Korea. So the Index of Economic Freedom measures economic freedom using 10 broad categories such as trade policy, property rights, and government interventions, with each category containing more than 50 specific criteria. It then ranks 180 nations according to the degree of economic freedom. A few selected rankings for 2017 are listed here. So technology and capital goods, advanced technology and capital goods are encouraged as it helps market economies achieve greater efficiency in production. Specialization, Adam Smith. Division of labor, ability differences, learning by doing, saving time, avoiding switching tasks. So specialization, like I said before, it's very efficient to specialize in what you're good at and then trade with other nations that are good at a different thing. And they specialize in that as well. So use of money acts as a medium of exchange. Barter requires coincidence of wants. So money is very important because it would be very hard to trade wheat. Like in this case, it'd be very hard to trade wheat for potatoes, apples for wheat, apples for potatoes. It'd be very hard to trade that through a barter system because what would be the exchange rate? Would it be 1 potato for 1 apple? Would it be 5 wheat for 1 apple? It would be very difficult to create a system to trade for all of these things. So it's best to use a currency to set a price for each of these things so it's easier to trade. It'd be very difficult to barter where we're just trading different products for each other. So characteristics of the market system: active but limited government. Market failures are inherent in the market system. Government can increase the overall efficiency of the economic system if the market system fails. The central government, along with the central bank, needs to take action if the market economy is experiencing recession or inflation. So 5 fundamental questions: what goods and services will be produced? How will the goods and services be produced? Who will get the goods and services? How will the system accommodate change? And how will the system promote progress? So what will be produced? The goods and services that can be produced at a continuing profit. Total revenue is greater than total cost. So you want to produce products and services when the total revenue is greater than total cost. So that's very important. That means that you're making profit. Consumer sovereignty determines the types and quantities. Dollar votes reflect wants. So if people are buying something more than other things, then that means that there's more demand for that product or service. So if the sales for a product or service are higher than other products and services, that means that people want that at a higher demand. The employment of resources derives from the sale of goods and services they help produce. How will the goods and services be produced? Minimize the cost per unit by using the most efficient techniques, the right mix of labor and capital, optimal location of production facilities, technology, prices, and necessary resources. So here, this is a good table to show the allocation of labor, land, capital, entrepreneur, the price of each unit of resource, and the units and costs. So this is a good breakdown of how much it would cost to create these things. And yeah, so this is a good breakdown of what it would cost to create these things. So who will get the output? Consumers with the ability and willingness to pay will get the product. Ability to pay depends on income. Income depends on property and human resources, and resources priced in the factor market. Willingness depends on preference. How will the system accommodate change? Changes in consumer taste, changes in technology, changes in resource prices. The directing or guiding function of prices and profits is the core element of the product system. How will the system promote progress, technological advance, innovation of products, income increasing, innovation of process, cost reducing, creative destruction, capital accumulation? Entrepreneurs and business owners use part of profit to purchase capital goods to receive higher profit in the future. So 1776 Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. This is a book that was focused on the classical economics theory. It's focused on basically no government intervention. It's except for the court system and protection of property. So national defense, policing, and the court system. So it's the laissez-faire focus. So unity of private and social interest under a highly competitive market system, private interest and social interest coincide. Prices communicate information about scarcity and value. Competition forces producers and research suppliers to respond. Firms acting in their own best interest also promote society's interests in terms of efficiency. So this is a laissez-faire book. So this would be focused on laissez-faire, while Keynesian economics would be focused on government intervention in a lot of cases. So those are the two sides of the coin in economics: is the classical Adam Smith view, and then the Keynesian view. So those are the two ends of the spectrum in economics. While the market system tries to incorporate both. Market system tries to have both Keynesian and classical, so like trying to balance that out, while the command system would be fully Keynesian. So everything would be Keynesian in the command system. There would be no balance. While classical laissez-faire, there's no balance either. It's just no government intervention except for court system and private ownership protection. Three special merits of the market system: efficiency and use of resources and use of technology production, development of new and more efficient technology techniques. Incentives: the market system encourages skill acquisition, hard work, and innovation. Freedom: rewards and penalties are imposed by the market system. The demise of the command systems. Command system was a failure. Soviet Union, Eastern Europe, and China. The coordination problem: set output targets for all goods. The incentive problem: no adjustments for surplus or shortage. Households: one or more persons occupying a housing unit, buy the goods and services provided by businesses in the product market, obtain the income needed to buy the products from by selling resources in the factor market. Wages, rents, interest, and profits flow to households. Just go back here. For the labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship ability. Businesses, economic entities that purchase factors of production of the resource market and sell goods and services in the product market. Sole proprietorship is non-incorporated business owned and operated by a single person. So that could be an option for you in the future. If with your degree you want to start your own business, these are options of what you can do to start your own business. So sole proprietorship, you don't have to, with sole proprietorship, you don't have to incorporate your business. You can just start selling service or product. So you could go like use, let's say, like one of those websites it showed. So if it was Fiverr or Upwork, you could start selling a service online, or use Amazon, eBay, Shopify, Etsy to create a product. And then you can sell it through sole proprietorship, so you don't have to register your business that way. Partnership: two or more individuals pool their financial resources and business skills to operate the business and share in the profits/losses. So that's you could do that. The best one is corporation. It's an independent legal entity that can acquire resources, own assets, produce, sell, incur debts, extend credit, etc. So the benefit of a corporation is that if the corporation goes bankrupt, if there's too much debt on the corporation, you won't go bankrupt as a person. That's the benefit of being a corporation. You don't have to worry about going into personal bankruptcy. Your corporation could go bankrupt, but you won't go personally bankrupt. So that's a big benefit of incorporating a corporation, because you don't have to worry about personal bankruptcy. While with a sole proprietorship and partnership, you have to worry about personal bankruptcy, because the debts of your company in sole proprietorship or partnership are your debts. So that's the problem. While corporation, you can take out debt as a corporation, and if the corporation goes bankrupt, you don't go bankrupt personally. That's the big benefit of that. Also, being a corporation, you get lower taxes in a lot of cases. So that's a big benefit of being a corporation. So if you want to start your own business, incorporating is a lot more advantageous to you than not incorporating. So product market, where the goods and services produced by businesses are bought and sold. Households use the income they receive from the sale of resources to buy goods and services. The money spent on goods and services flows to businesses' revenue. Factor market, where households sell resources to businesses. Households sell resources to generate income. Businesses buy resources to produce goods and services. Productive resources flow from households to businesses. The money flows from businesses to households, wages, rents, interest, and profits. So this is the circular flow model. So this is how the economy works. People in the factor market, they work for companies. The companies pay for their work. Households, people at households sell factors of production by working, and then they use that money that they earn from the working to buy products. Then firms sell products to the people buy it as a household, and then it just keeps going like that. So the money that companies make, they pay it out to the workers. The workers use that money to buy products and services. Then the companies pay their workers for selling those goods and services and producing those goods and services, and then those people use that money to buy them again. So that cycle just keeps going. And then you add the government in there, the government taxes households and businesses, and takes that money and gives it back to the households and businesses in terms of subsidies. And then the government taxes again, and it just keeps going like that forever. Chapter summary: differences between laissez-faire capitalism, the command system, and market system, the main characteristics of the market system, the 5 fundamental questions any economy faces, the operation of an invisible hand, the mechanism of the circular flow model, how the market system deals with risk. So we'll do another activity here, and then we'll get back to that in a second. So we'll try this here. We haven't covered all this yet, but it'll introduce all of us to these concepts so far. So we'll do a quick activity here. Let's do 5 questions here. So to join in, scan the QR code above or click this link here. So alternating periods of economic expansion, economic recession, what's that called? It's called business cycle. The key measure of inflation, the change in the cost of buying a fixed basket of goods and services, what's that called? Yes, consumer price index. Good job. So they use the consumer price index and they measure the change over time to figure out what the inflation is. When prices rise due to increase in the cost of production, that's what we call it. So that's called cost push inflation. We'll talk about that as the weeks go on. Increase in the price level inflation resulting from an excess of demand over an output at the existing price level caused by an increase in aggregate demand. It's called demand pull inflation. Yes. The total value of goods produced and services provided in a country during 1 year. Gross domestic product. Excellent. Great work, Samir. Good work, Abby, Kala, and good job. Yeah, good job, Tareem and Nicole too. So very well done. That's a good introduction there. Let's get back to the PowerPoint here. Just we'll get through a few more things here. So the next thing is demand, supply, and market equilibrium. So markets are interaction between buyers and sellers. Markets may be local, national, and international. Price is discovered in the interactions of buyers and sellers, so the negotiation between both of them. So demand is a scheduled curve, amount consumers are willing and able to purchase at a given price during a specific amount of time, all other things equal individual demand. So demand is downward sloping. So quantity demanded goes up when price goes down because people are willing to buy more when the price is lower. And that's pretty intuitive because you're more likely to buy more of something when it's cheaper. So like going to secondhand stores, if it's Salvation Army, if it's Talese, if it's Value Village, any secondhand store, the reason like why me and my family go there is because it's cheap, right? So we're more likely to buy more of something if it's cheaper. So that's why that it makes sense. Like the price, as the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. Law of demand, the negative or inverse relationship between the price and quantity demanded. Other things equal, as price falls, the quantity demanded rises, and as price rises, the quantity demanded falls. Yeah. So the demand curve, the inverse relationship between price and quantity demanded is shown on a graph. Quantity demanded on the horizontal axis and price on the vertical axis. Downward slope reflects the law of demand. The demand curve is the marginal benefit curve. So what you could do is you could add up the quantity demanded for all of these individuals here and get the total quantity demanded and then the price. So you could do this for the whole economy. You could survey everyone in Canada and figure out their quantity demanded, add them all up, and then price. But that would be very difficult to do. So you could do a census where you survey a certain amount of the population. Ideally, it would be every nth person. So you could do maybe every 1,000th person in Canada, every 10,000th person in Canada, or every 100,000th person in Canada, whatever budget you have to survey how many people. That's the best way is every nth person, if it's every 100,000th person, every millionth person, that kind of thing. That's the best way to do it because that's the best way to randomize it. It's easy to randomize by selecting every nth person. Yeah, so doing this, if you did it surveyed every nth person, that would be a great way to randomize it. Also, you could randomize the telephone numbers. You could call a random so you can call a random 10-digit telephone number and then ask maybe 10,000 people across Canada, 100,000 people across Canada a question about their quantity demanded. Determinants of demand, change in consumer tastes and preferences, change in the number of buyers, change in income, normal goods and inferior goods. So normal goods are goods you buy more of when your income goes up. So an example would be when your income goes up, you may go on more trips on a plane. That's a normal good. While inferior goods, you buy more of an inferior good when your income goes down. So you may buy more craft dinner when your income goes down because it's inexpensive compared to a more expensive meal like lobster. You might buy more craft dinner when your income goes down. So changes in prices in related goods. So complements are things you buy together. So ketchup and mustard being an example. People usually buy ketchup and mustard together. Those are complements. So if the quantity demanded for ketchup goes up, people are more likely to buy more mustard as well. Substitutes are products that are bought in place of another. So if the quantity demanded for Coca-Cola goes up, the quantity demanded for Pepsi will probably go down because of substitutes. Um, so that's usually what happens here. So change in demand for corn. If the demand for corn goes up, the demand curve will shift to the right. While if the demand for corn goes down, the demand curve will shift to the left. So this is a great chart here. So changes in buyer tastes. Physical fitness rises in popularity, increasing demand for jogging shoes and bicycles. Cell phone popularity rises, reducing demand for landline phones. Change in the number of buyers, decline in the birth rate reduces demand for children's toys. Change in income, a rise in incomes increases demand for normal goods such as restaurant meals, sports tickets, and tablet computers, while reducing demand for inferior goods such as cabbage, turnips, and inexpensive wine. Changes in the price of related goods, a reduction in airfares reduces demand for bus transportation substitute goods. Decline in the price of Blu-ray DVD players increases demand for Blu-ray DVD movies. Complementary goods, changes in consumer expectations, inclement weather in South America creates an expectation of higher future coffee bean prices, thereby increasing today's demand for coffee beans. So this is a great chart here. Recommend going back. It's 78, slide 3.78. Changes in quantity demanded. Change in demand is a shift in the entire demand curve. Change in quantity demand is a movement along the demand curve. So this is a very important distinction. Change in demand is a shift in entire demand curve. Change in quantity demanded is a movement along the demand curve. So I'll write this in the chat. Change in demand is non-price related, while change in quantity demanded is price related. Yeah. So that's very important distinction. So supply schedule a curve, amount producers are willing and able to sell at a given price, individual supply and market supply. So law of supply, other things equal, as the price rises, the quantity supplied rises, and the price falls, the quantity supplied falls. So the reason why is because the price acts as incentive to producers. So if the price goes up, the producer will make more money selling the product. So that's the incentive to the producer to produce more. So if the supply curve shifts to the left, that's a decrease in supply. While if the supply curve shifts to the right, that's an increase in supply. Yeah. So determinants of supplier factor prices, technology, taxes, and substitutes, prices of other goods, price expectations, and number of sellers. So this is a great chart too. It's 3.84. Change in factor prices, a decrease in the price of microchips, increases the supply of computers, an increase in the price of crude oil reduces the supply of gasoline. Change in technology, development of more effective wireless technology increases the supply of cell phones. Change in taxes and subsidies, an increase in the excise tax on cigarettes reduces the supply of cigarettes. A decline in subsidies to state universities reduces the supply of higher education. Change in the price of other goods, an increase in the price of cucumbers decreases the supply of watermelons. Change in producer expectations, an expectation of a substantial rise in future log prices decreases the supply of logs today. Change the number of suppliers, an increase in number of tattoo parlors increases the supply of tattoos. The formation of women's professional basketball leagues increases the supply of women's professional basketball games. Equilibrium occurs when the demand curve and supply curve intersect. Surplus and shortage, rationing, function of prices, efficient allocation, productive efficiency, and allocated efficiency we'll talk about. So surplus is when these quantity supplied is greater than the quantity demanded. So there's more quantity supplied than quantity demanded. So there's more stuff than you need. That's a surplus. There's more available than what you are demanding. That's a surplus. While a shortage is when the quantity demanded is higher than quantity supplied. The demand is higher than supply. That's shortage. So you want to meet in the middle. That's ideal. You want supply to equal demand. That will mean there's no shortage or surplus. That's really key. So once you're in the middle of the equilibrium, there's no surplus or shortage. Rationing function of prices, the ability of the competitive forces of demand and supply to establish a price at which selling and buying decisions are consistent. So efficient allocation, productive efficiency, producing goods in the least costly way, using the best technology, using the right mix of resources, allocated efficiency, producing the right mix of goods, the combination of goods most highly valued to society. Changes in demand, if the supply of a good is constant as demand increases, equilibrium price increases, equilibrium quantity increases. If supply of good and demand it decreases, demand equilibrium price decreases, equilibrium quantity decreases. So if there's an increase in demand, the price will rise and the quantity will rise. If there's a decrease in demand, the price will reduce and the quantity will reduce. So as you can see by the graph, it shows that very well. Quantities on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis, while price is on the y-axis. Changes in supply, the demand for a good is constant as supply increases, equilibrium price falls, equilibrium quantity rises. The demand for a good is constant and as supply decreases, equilibrium price rises and equilibrium quantity falls. As you can see here, if supply shifts, how consumer surplus works is you may have the highest price you want to pay for something, while you may pay less than that. If you pay less than what the highest price is that you want to pay for it, then you get a consumer surplus. So if you wanted to pay, let's say $13 for food and the price was $8, your consumer surplus would be $5. So it's the difference between what you're willing to pay and what you pay. So it pretty much shows the profit you make as a consumer, basically, from your willingness to pay. Producer surplus is the difference between the actual price a producer receives and the minimum price they would accept, extra benefit from receiving a higher price. So this is very similar to profit. So if the minimum acceptable price is the cost per unit, and the actual price you sell it at is the price you sell it at, then that would be the profit. So minimum acceptable price, if that's the cost per unit, then you would get the producer surplus would be the profit. So producer surplus is very similar to profit. So consumer surplus and producer surplus, if you add those up here, that would be the total surplus. So at equilibrium, that's maximized. So surplus is maximized at equilibrium. So private goods are produced in the market by firms, offered by sale, characteristics, rivalry, and excludability. Public goods are provided by government, offered for free, characteristics, non-rivalry, non-excludability, and free rider problem. So chapter 5, government's role and government failure. Government's right to coerce. Government has legal right to enforce involuntary transactions. So what they do is, in this case, one of the examples is when they want to make a highway or when they want to make a new railway, if they want to make a new LRT example, they can set a fair cash offer and enforce all of the property owners to take it, and the government can then take the land. So the owners of the properties, they receive a fair cash value, like by appraiser, for their land, and they don't have any say. They have to accept the offer, and the government can take the land. So that's called eminent domain. So the government does that to build highways and railways, etc. So that can cause issues because people may not want to sell their land. A force can increase economic efficiency. The problem is people may not want to sell their land, which is a big issue. So that happens a lot when the government wants to build something. So the problem with directing and managing government, no invisible hand, massive size and scope, the need for bureaucracy, the need for paperwork and inflexibility, the information aggregation problem, and lack of accountability. So government failure, clear benefits and costs, unfunded liabilities, chronic budget deficits, economic inefficiency, and debt crises. So there can be issues with fiscal policy where the government spends too much, doesn't take in enough taxes. They can also overtax the population, which is a big issue. Monetary policy, they may have issues with setting interest rates. Maybe they set them too high or too low. Maybe they pump too much money in the economy. Maybe they pump too little. and politicization of fiscal monetary policy